Kunal Bajaj, CEO and co-founder of Cloud Extel, is with us on the show to give us his perspective. Very good morning, Kunal. Great to speak with you on NDTV Profit. Let's begin with your take of the figure that has come out of the board meeting yesterday, and 45,000 crores and all 20,000 crores of that equity. Do you think it's doable right now? Is it overambitious?
Good morning. How are you guys today? And thank you so much for having me on this morning. Certainly, I think, Vodafone has been at this for quite some time now. They would have certainly spoken to all the relevant investors. And because we've been hearing this news come out in bits and pieces and drabs over the month saying that, the fundraise is right around the corner. So I think it's very positive that finally they've had a definitive board meeting where they are talking about the specific numbers, approving it. And also we've been hearing a lot of good messaging from the promoters that, they're not walking away from this. So they're ready to participate from an equity level. So it looks like the light might finally be there at the end of the tunnel.
Does it matter how much the promoters put in and how many external investors come in? Because that's the hitch, right? They've been hunting for external investors for a while. And They really haven't seen any big player come and put their might behind Vodafone. In fact, a Nomura note out this morning that have kept their rating to reduce. They've maintained a target price of 6.5 rupees and say it's positive if they're able to bring in external investors. How key is that in your view, Kunal?
Yeah, so I do agree with that, because at the end of the day, even with promoter participation, we know that the promoter participation is going to be limited. So the 45,000 crores that we're talking about, of which, as you mentioned, 20,000 crores is equity, that's okay for now, but that's not enough, for what is really going to be required from a debt repayment perspective, as well as from a CapEx commitment perspective over the next 3 to 5 years. So this is not a one-time thing which we need to look at. We need to look at what is going to be the commitment to fund and strengthen and reinvest in VIL over the next 3 to 5 years. And only if we have that consistent commitment that's going to continue to be there, will we expect them to be able to really bounce back from the situation that they're in today. So I think that's why external participation is quite important.
Kunal, dues that Vodafone will owe is 5,400 crores in FY25 and 30,000 crores in FY26. That's over 35,000 crores that's payable over the next 2 years. Now, if you're looking at a fundraise of 45,000 crores, how is that math going to work out if the big push is going to be towards expansion? And that's the need of the hour as well.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, right? And I think that's exactly the point, that this 45,000 crores is just a start. Even if, like you said, you look at just the debt amount, 40,000 crores due in the next 2 years, of which 95% is also due to the government. So unless the government steps in and decides that they are going to further enhance the support in the package, which they have already extended to the telecom sector, or which they may specifically have to extend to Vodafone, then yes, it's certainly not going to be enough in terms of the mathematics, because in addition to this, they have vendor dues, plus they haven't yet started the 5G rollout. But I think that's exactly to the point that was being made earlier. If you have an external financial investor or strategic investor that comes and participates in this, then that will show a longer term commitment, because no financial investor is going to come in thinking that, I'm only going to put in 20 today or a certain amount today, and that's going to be it. Because I think everybody realizes that this is a long journey for Vodafone to get back out of the situation that they've gotten themselves into today.
Kunal, one quick question. I know part of the fundraise is going to be through debt and part of it is going to be through equity. Now, getting external investors may or may not be challenging. From the look of it, it doesn't seem like it's an easy task. And the timeline is next quarter, which makes it even more challenging. Assuming that they do go out and raise the equity, the rest of it is raised through debt. Is the cost of funding going to be something you want to watch out for? Because getting the money is one thing, but getting the money expensive is only going to make this tougher, looking ahead for the next couple of years.
Completely agree with you on that, because you can't raise debt in such a way that you end up making the hole bigger for yourself, right? So today, I think one of the good things is that, at least from a external financial debt perspective, i.e. non-government debt, they've been able to get a lot of things under control over the past couple of years, and they've been picking away at that and actually being quite responsible about it. It's the government debt today that's the major overhang. But yes, if you raise very expensive debt from external markets just in order to get external investors participating, then the cost of that debt, you're right, is going to create a bigger problem. So, and that's probably why I think what we're looking at is something which is going to be a combination of the debt and the equity, and potentially some kind of structured instrument that may come in as well.
Kunal, I just want to understand, what this is going to do for them in real terms. So if you look at their press release and what they've sent to the exchanges, obviously, as expected, they're very optimistic. They say that, we've been improving 4G, 5G rollout, etc. But look at the industry right now, where you have very strong competitors, essentially a duopoly with Vodafone kind of hanging on, if we're being very honest. So to what extent can those goals be achieved, even if a 45,000 crore fundraise goes out successfully?
Yeah. So I think, the fact that Vodafone has survived this long with such intense competition, and also being, almost 2 years behind the ball from a launch of 5G perspective, shows, and as well as the fact that they've been able to decrease the bleed in terms of number of subscribers which are exiting. And like you said, some of the optimism which they've displayed have come out in last quarter's numbers, where you've seen quarter-on-quarter improvement in EBITDA. So, I dare to say maybe we are sort of already at the bottom. And this is kind of the last opportunity, but also the right time for this type of investment to come in, because the customers who are still there on Vodafone are clearly very, very loyal to them, right? So you do have high levels of churn, but that's typically in the prepaid user base at the very bottom. But the postpaid subscribers that they have, the corporate customers that they have, the higher value customers who have been using 4G for a long time, the fact that many of those have still not churned out, despite the fact that 5G is available in the market, and it's been available in the market for almost 2 solid years now, shows that you have some real loyalty that's left. And if Vodafone can recover from that, deliver back on its network quality, launch 5G, and really provide those same services to that loyal user base, there is an opportunity to bounce back, leveraging the spectrum assets they have, leveraging the network assets that they have, and clearly the goodwill that they have with this customer base.
And in terms, Kunal, of impact, say, on a Bharti Airtel, this Morgan Stanley note out this morning talking about, whether this impacts Bharti Airtel at all. And their take, at least, is that it's a limited upside. And all this does is prevent further consolidation in the industry as of now, so a lease of life. In your view, is there any impact on Bharti Airtel? And additionally, how do you view the government efforts to revive and grow BSNL in this bigger context?
Yeah, so I think from that perspective, the impact on Bharti Airtel and on Jio, for that matter, as well, is going to be quite limited, in the sense that the market is really big enough, and we've had many more operators performing, financially very well, even in the past. And I think we're at a stage where operators realize that further competition, which is, just like unsensible type of competition where you're just randomly cutting prices and things like that, is not healthy for themselves or for the sector. So if we have a strong Vodafone back again, what we will have is a proper 3-player market. It's very unlikely that we would see in the near term Vodafone get back to the type of market share that they used to have before. And therefore, they're not likely to take away substantial amounts of market share from Airtel or Jio. And at the same time, given that ARPUs have been rising for everybody, you're in a situation where the sector itself is growing and the health of the sector itself is growing, and having this third operator around is only going to help that. So yeah, I agree. I don't see too much of a negative impact, or very limited potential downside on Airtel.
Just one quick last question, and this is more sector related. We've moved on from 3G, 4G, 5G, and now we are talking AI and IoT. At a time like this, when we're already at the next leg, you've got Vodafone not just 1 but 2 steps behind in that sense. How is it going to play out for the sector? I mean, how is one going to monetize, and not just Vodafone, right? Even the other players in the business, monetize 5G at this stage? Because if we've already moved to AI, I'm guessing this is a challenge unless Elon Musk gets into this business in India.
So with every launch of a new generation, the initial launch phase has, by and large, always disappointed, right? So if you think about when 3G was first launched and when 4G was first launched, everyone's like, hey, this is just a faster 2G when 3G came out, or when 4G was there, it's just a faster 3G. But what you notice over a period of time is, as the capacity is made available and device penetration really starts to permeate across the user base, the use cases start to come out that leverage the bandwidth that's available, and that's when the monetization kicks in. So, the entire shift from 2G to 3G was the shift basically from messaging to browsing the internet. And from 3G to 4G, the entire shift was to video streaming. And now if you see where we are as a country, right, we're amongst the largest, if not the largest consumer of YouTube content in the world. You have all sorts of other types of video content on Insta and others, which are now actually being monetized and business models have emerged, not to mention all the OTT players. So the shift to 5G, as we get that penetration, you will get new use cases and new models coming out, and then the monetization on that will finally start to happen. It just takes a little bit of time.
Right, thank you, Kunal. Great chatting with you and getting some perspective on what this approval of Fundraise really means. Of course, the first leg is to get in that fundraise, and then, of course, what it could mean for Vodafone, what it could mean for Indus Towers, smaller in nature, but definitely worth a mention, and the industry as whole.